Welcome back. Here with us on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Travel plans for hundreds of passengers were impacted after airlines, including Air India, decided to cancel some flights to and from the US over 5G launch in America by AT&T and Verizon. Airlines across the world, especially the ones flying to the US, are extremely concerned about 5G rollout. The fear is that 5G rollout will cause major flight cancellations, as this could interfere with the key safety systems. But following last-minute talks with US government officials over safety concerns, AT&T and Verizon agreed to delay switching on hundreds of 5G cell towers near some US airports. US President Joe Biden said on Tuesday that agreement will avoid potentially devastating disruptions to passenger travel, cargo operations, and a recovery in the economy. But it is a temporary relief only. And why are airlines really concerned about the 5G rollout? Let's try to find out from our experts joining us on the broadcast this evening. We have Jitender Bhargava, former Executive Director, Air India, and author of The Descent of Air India. Also joining us on the broadcast this evening is Rajan Mathews, former DG COAI. So we have an aviation expert on the show, a telecom expert on the show. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. First, let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Jitender Bhargava. Why are the airlines concerned all over the world, especially the ones that fly to and from the US, including Air India, about the 5G rollout? Could you just simplify this for our viewers?
See, there is an apprehension amongst airline operators, not just Air India. There are Gulf carriers, there are United States carriers who feel that the 5G rollout near the airport will impact the instruments in the cockpit, particularly the radar control altimeter. They would not like to risk the safety of passengers. They are apprehensive, and they've been demanding that the 5G rollout in the airport vicinity be deferred for the moment, which AT&T and Verizon have agreed, but the flight cancellations are still taking place. Today, January 19th, Air India did not operate a single flight to the United States of America. It operates 4 flights every day. Tomorrow's schedule is also uncertain. They haven't taken a call as of now whether they are going to operate some of the flights or not operate any flight, etc. So it is leading to inconvenience. Now, what we have in the public domain is that Federal Aviation Agency has been trying 5G. The airline, the wireless operators have been cooperative to some extent, but they are citing reasons. The question is, why wasn't the issue resolved months ago rather than they were being given extension time and again? Boeing company, Airbus company, whose aircraft are deployed by these airlines, have also not stepped in to allay the fears, the apprehensions of the airlines, and said, look, it is going to be safe. People are citing that, look, 5G has been rolled out in some other countries without looking at the fact that in those countries they're operated at low power. The transmitters are invariably shut off, and if not shut off, are facing downwards away from the aircraft. Now, precautions have been taken. Now, there is no reason why in the United States something of this kind couldn't have been done, forcing airlines, not just Asian airlines, the Japanese airlines, Gulf carriers, US carriers, etc., all saying, look, we need to be assured. Now, why isn't that assurance forthcoming, leading to inconvenience? As it is, as we know, because of the COVID, international flights are few. They are not operating at full capacity. Now, this is going to cause a cascading effect on the passengers. Flight passengers of the booked on the 19th of January can't be accommodated on the 20th. The flights are not operated. And it's going to have a cascading effect. Very unfortunate situation, unprecedented situation.
Very unfortunate and unprecedented situation that the passengers are facing at this point in time. Mr. Mathews, are the concerns valid, as Mr. Jitender Bhargava explained to us just now, from the telecom perspective?
You see, this matter has been under discussion by the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Authority, and the FCC, which obviously is responsible for telecom. And rulemaking started in 2018. I think Jitendra is right in terms of saying, why has it come to this? I think both associations and industries have said that they've undergone the appropriate tests and criteria to ensure that safety is of paramount importance. And I think, of course, caution is appropriate. And I think we need to lower the decibel level on this discussion, because I think interference is the critical issue. C-band, as we call it, is the particular 5G band that is under question. Unfortunately, what has happened is that in the 5G band, which is specifically used in America, right? Different countries have different bands. C-band is the one that has been allocated for 5G. AT&T and Verizon have used that across in the rollout. Now, part of that 5G band is being used by the airlines for the landing of aircraft when they come into land. Their instrumentation is now using a part of that 5G band, what we call the C-band. And the risk and the apprehension is that it's going to create interference. That's physics, right? However, we in the telecom industry have come and evolved to a very sophisticated time frame when we can manage interference. So, for example, globally, this is not unique that multiple people share a same band. So what do? We have guard bands. Different countries either shorten it or expand it based on safety measures. So all of these things have been discussed. I think GSMA, which is the industry body for communications, has said, look, some of these apprehensions and fears are based on scenarios that are wildly exaggerated. Caution is appropriate, but I think we've done the necessary things. This particular accommodation which says that please don't use 5G for now within 2 miles of an active runway, I think that's prudent, that's appropriate. And I think with that accommodation, the industry, the airline industry should feel safe and continue not to cancel and continue the airline, schedules that are in place. And we should continue then under this accommodation of 2 miles, all right, not propagate on this particular band, which is particular to the US, not in other parts of the world. Some countries do use the same band. And let's test and make sure again that both sides, the aviation industry and the communications industry, never want to put a passenger's life at risk. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so Mr. Jitender Bhargava, I think that was a recommendation, in fact, that was made by airlines also, that if there is some sort of a buffer zone that's created around the major airports in the US where the rollout could have an impact on airlines, the flight specifically, buffer zone of about 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers. If that is created, then probably things should look slightly better. Do you agree? And do you see that happening with the kind of response that has come from AT&T and Verizon?
You see, some of the CEOs of United States carriers have written a letter asking for exactly this, that these wireless companies defer the introduction of 5G within a radius of 2 miles, which is 3.2 kilometers around the major airports. Now, question comes in, Air Indias are not overly keen to be cancelling flights at such a time when it costs them fairly dearly, and they are losing money on operations because of limited flights that they are operating. Now, there has to be some kind of credibility in their assertion that they have apprehensions as far as safety is concerned. They aren't satisfied as yet of all the measures that have been taken or been convinced. As I said earlier, Air India cancelled all the flights on January 19, which is today. Tomorrow's schedule, they're still debating, looking at what kind of signals come out of the United States that, look, these concerns have been addressed to such a large extent. These are the kind of precautions required to be taken. This is what the US agencies will do and operate some of the flights. But looking from the passenger's perspective, look at the uncertainty that they have at the moment. They book their flights. They're not sure whether the flights are operating. It's not Air India alone. Japanese carriers are there. Emirates is there. Etihad is there. The number of airlines are just growing. Long-haul flights are operated with 777 aircraft. They're all high-tech aircraft. Now, somebody has to take the preventive steps and said, look, we are going to be addressing concerns of airlines. There will be no apprehensions. Airline, let me explain to you, welcomes new technology. airline industry itself is high technology based industry. So they would be the last people to put an impediment in introduction of a new technology. So I at least support the airlines.
And for a country like India, Mr. Bhargav, this clearly is a bigger concern because there are only few flights that we have currently via bubble arrangement to, with the US, because the normal international air operation still remains suspended. In fact, today only the notification came that it will remain suspended till 28th of February. So in any case, there are very limited flights.
That's
and this is adding to the uncertainty. Now, Mr. Rajan Mathews, the statement that we've got from AT&T and Verizon, it seems to suggest that temporarily they have decided to defer turning on the number of towers that are around the airport. What does it mean? Does it mean that they are putting it on hold only for some time, or it's on hold till a final solution comes out? I mean, what is really happening? Because as Mr. Bhargav mentioned, there is uncertainty for Air India passengers. We don't know whether tomorrow's flights to and from the US will operate or not.
So I think each individual airline obviously is cautious, and passenger safety can never be compromised. That goes without saying. But let me say this, there are all kinds of other airlines that are flying into JFK and San Francisco and all of this. And I understand that is continuing. France, for example, hasn't canceled. Britain hasn't canceled. So specific to the airlines, both Boeing and Airbus have received instruction in terms of the specific aircraft that have already been adjusted to make sure that this type of interference. Please, let's understand what exactly the situation, where it is. It is only when an aircraft comes into land and when visibility of the pilot is impaired because of bad weather or because of other circumstances. That is the concern. So let's not expand it beyond that specific. So yes, so now this 2-mile thing, of course, AT&T and Verizon have agreed. And it's two agencies. Please remember, just under regulation in India, the regulators, and those that manage these industries are ultimately responsible for clearing it. AT&T and Verizon can't say to the FCC, I'm sorry, if you don't give us permission, we are going to turn it on anyway. It doesn't happen that way. These companies follow the letter of the law, and passenger safety is important. The FAA also is responsible for the airline. So these two regulators, if you will, and oversight agencies are working. So I don't believe that the restrictions will be removed until both agencies are satisfied that passenger safety is not compromised. So I think the industry will work through these agencies, through the governmental agencies, to ensure passenger safety is never compromised.
All right. Mr. Jitender Bhargava, the last word.
I would say that airline would be keen to operate the flights. The fact is that you always err on the side of caution when it comes to safety of passengers. FAA, wireless operators, airlines had been in parleys for a long time. They had expressed their apprehensions. And I'm sure this demand for not rolling out 5G in the 2-mile radius is not the first time that was put up yesterday. It must have been put up in the round of discussion they had earlier. If they had been accepted, concerns had been addressed to the satisfaction of the airlines, I don't think any airline would have said, I have reservations on flying to America. And they all look at it, as you said earlier, because of the air bubble arrangement, flight being operated, limited, passenger inconvenience. Look at it from the airline perspective. Whereas it is losing on revenues, the passengers who were turned away yesterday or today because of the flight cancellations to be put up in hotels by the airline at their cost, etc., it all costs money. So they would be the first ones to welcome a slight ray of hope that comes in that, look, it's all safe to operate to the United States and airlines will operate. They're not going to create uncalled for controversies where none exist. So this is why I've said, I reiterate my point, if the apprehensions being expressed by the airlines, they need to be fully addressed because they can't take a chance as far as safety of passengers is concerned.
Well, absolutely. The concerns are valid and they need to be addressed as well. I appreciate both of you gentlemen for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now and explaining to our viewers this 5G scare that's there for the aviation sector across the country, here in India for Air India specifically, because this has led to cancellation of flights of Air India as well to the US because we just have few flights operating between between India and the US as part of the bubble arrangement, as the international air travel remains suspended now till 28th of February. And now this 5G scare has added to some bit of confusion here. As a result, we have seen flights getting cancelled by other airlines as well in different parts of the world. We'll see what happens next in this entire story, because for the moment, at least the companies here, AT&T and Verizon, have decided to temporarily suspend their decision, in fact, to roll out the 5G C-band specifically very close to the airports. Let's now move on and talk about another big story that we have for you this evening.